Good morning, everyone. Oh, that's very loud. I am going to do my best not to go too fast. I appreciate I've spoke to quite a few guys over the last few days, and I appreciate I have an accent, which is not a transformation, but I've got an accent, which not everyone may be able to pick up at the speed that I go, but I will slow it down. So if you find at the back or at the side, I am far too fast, let's say, shout, tell me, slow down, whatever you fancy at all. As Tom said, my name is Alastair. I come all the way over from Scotland, joined by my colleague Stephen, sitting in the bright red polo shirt over at the far right-hand side, who did not want to be on stage. I can say that, Stephen, I've got the mic. Yeah, heckle and boo him, right? I've been with the MacGregor's team since October last year, so coming up for that kind of year mark, and previous to that, it's really been digital marketing is my kind of focus point. Predominantly working with SMEs around Scotland and part of the UK. A lot of micro distilleries, microbreweries, tourism, hospitality, and the big thing that I'm keen on is growth. And when the opportunity came up to join the MacGregor's team, especially with e-commerce and marketing, it kind of ticked all those boxes for me. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the journey that we've gone on. Now, this journey did start pre me joining the team, so this might be the odd thing where someone may ask me a question and I may not know the answer, but I will try. I'll do my best. So the journey has been on go for a while. Did lots and lots of groundwork, explored lots of different opportunities, and as I say, I'm going to take you on a little bit of that with me today. Make sure tech's working. Yeah, all good. Okay, so this is the agenda that we're going to run through. I'm not going to read every single thing that's on the slides. I appreciate you guys can see it as we go. I don't know if there's a digital copy you guys get after or not, but I say if you do want anything, please let me know. So I say we have been on a transformation journey, and I'm going to show you guys in a few slides down the road where we were, and it's not pretty. We had really, it's not even that it wasn't good, it was just outdated. We had a legacy system that had been in place for 10 plus years that was turning over good money, so we just sat on it. And it worked. And it brings in money, and it works. And it brings in money, and it works. And then it kind of starts to fall apart. So we went through our exploration, and we've come to Znode. Is that right, Jerry? Yes, perfect. Okay, so we'll set a little bit of a scene for you guys. I say I am from Scotland, hence the accent. I'm going to say it one more time. We're based in the north of Scotland. So geography-wise, it's not huge. You can pretty much go from one end of Scotland to the other in kind of 4 or 5 hours, depending on how fast you drive. We've got multiple stores. That's the pins that you're seeing on the map just now. This is our kind of spread across the north of Scotland. And we've intentionally kind of stuck to the north of Scotland. That's where our roots are. Family-run company, celebrating our 40th year next year. Being in the north of Scotland comes with challenges. Partly bringing goods in, we've got to take them the whole way up the country, is the gist of it, which is why we don't take it back down, really. We do dip into, most people that I spoke to, Glasgow or Edinburgh, or Edinburgh, I think is how you guys kind of pronounce it. But there's no point in us taking goods from there back up north to process, to then reload back into a truck and take it elsewhere. So we've very much set our stall out across the north of Scotland. The other thing that we have is roughly 17 different divisions. So we cover lots and lots of different products, industries, and sectors. Now that goes from one of the sites that I'm going to talk about today, which is our schoolwear product, where essentially we do branding, we do the embroidery for or a large portion of primary schools, nurseries, high schools, again, in our kind of catchment area. We go from school uniform all the way up to heavy plant machinery. We are a Bobcat franchise, so we have from that size all the way to there, and we sell about 1,000 toilet rolls a day is how it feels as well. So our business model, based again around what you've probably been spotting on the map, is that we are very kind of heavy B2B, but we do have that B2C presence, and this is again where part of our e-commerce journey is starting to really gain a bit of traction. So with that, as I mentioned, we have schoolwear. So with that, we open that up to the general population. Parents want to buy their school clothes, where can they go? They come to us. Now, part of that is great because it drives traffic into those branches or those stores, if I jump back again on those pins. If you were to think about that, you're maybe not coming in normally because you don't expect to buy power tools, you don't want nails, you don't want anything. But if I can bring you in to buy your school clothes for your kids, there's a chance that you will see that you can also buy your dishwasher tablets for us, you can buy your toilet roll, you can buy jackets, you can buy boots. So schoolwear, even though it's such a small part of what we do, it is a brilliant way of driving some of that additional footfall into our stores that we might not always get. So big focus, B2B. And again, this is where our e-commerce journey really focuses, and we've replaced, as I mentioned, a legacy storefront system, which has caused a few question marks internally. I'm sure you won't mind me sharing this, Stephen, but internally of why we're not just opening the doors and just having a free-flowing, anyone can come in and buy. And part of that, again, is our business model, like a few of you guys have been speaking about over the last few days, where we've got different pricing. So if we have a general store and people can look at the pricing, will that cause us issues? And in some cases, we may be more expensive for your day-to-day goods if you're, again, just coming in off the street to go and buy something. But we were never really focused on that side. So part of our journey, as I say, is trying to reanalyze this. It does bring a challenge, and so does the divisional element that we have as well. So each of our divisions, rightly or wrongly, are a little bit siloed. So there's not always a crossover. Some of them are great. They will happily push other people's products. Not that it's unique to them, but they will. Other times, they just want to focus on their own, and that's again where part of the B2B dilemma comes in for us. And it'll probably hit a little bit harder when I swap down to actually show you what our current legacy system, which is in place, or is currently being phased out, looks like. The other issue that we have, again, not unique to us, is we've got so many different sales channels. We have a sales rep team that are, again, divisionalized. They're out on the road, traveling all over Scotland and further south. We have an internal sales team. We've got our e-commerce. We've got all our marketing strategies, which drive people through different forms. So we try to juggle lots and lots of different entities. Again, appreciate this is a very common problem for most of you guys. The other part, though, is our data. So we needed a solution which essentially fed all of these different sources of information, purchasing history, customer price points, and really worked with our ERP. So we use Infor CSD, so we needed a solution that would fully integrate with that so that everything was robust and scalable. And that is really the big element that works so well for us in Znode, that we can literally track everything as it kind of feeds back and forth from that ERP solution. Must say, the guys, I'm not going to name names, I know a few are here, but some of the guys that helped us with that, well, yeah, you probably hated it as much as we did at times. Yeah, I'm looking over this way. So our e-commerce journey, as I mentioned, started with an Infor storefront. It's still live, and it will be live for probably at least until the end of the year. And it's purely because we have such a high volume of SKUs, we've got a huge churn of products. So from a switching from our historical storefront to our new storefront has caused us a little bit of a stumble with product load. So we've used this opportunity to reanalyze all our product data, thinking more back to customer experience. With that old system, we've had a turnover of staff over that, say, 10, 12 years that site's been live. So then what you get is discrepancies in the quality of information and data which is getting put out there. So we use this as an opportunity to say, right, let's start with 0 products and build back up. Now, our current, again, what we call storefront, or e-store, sorry, is sitting with about 78,000 products. So to go back to 0 to reload is somewhat terrifying. And I know for a fact 2 of my colleagues hate me because they have to do all of that work. And I just get to smile and say, yeah, let's move on to their next. And really, that's been fed to me by my boss that sits in the corner. So we're going through this kind of transition, let's say, with the legacy system, which works, it's still in place. But what we've then had to think about is who should come on first? Should we literally port over our whole database of customers? And really the answer to that's been no. And that, again, comes down to product and experience. So what we've started to do is we've started to do a slow onboarding process with what we classify internally as industrial. So we've kind of split our two Znodes at the moment. We've got schoolwear, which I'm going to keep mentioning, and industrial. So for industrial, we're doing a slow, kind of phased process. And it's purely because of where we are just now, or where we started from, is that we've had to make this almost, it's not a stumble, but a very small baby step. And we've, so far with industrial, it's not big numbers at all. We're kind of sub 10, sub 12 accounts. And yeah, there's multiple people that buy through those accounts, but we only have a small handful on it. And that also allows us to go back to that, again, customer experience and think about how we can make some micro tweaks to help improve and almost make a better roadmap for these customers coming on. Flip that over, schoolwear, we didn't go down that route. With schoolwear, we got the site up, got all our products loaded, very easy. Most schools in Scotland have about 6 or 7 different garments that go with it, and that's about it. So from a product load perspective, it wasn't really an issue. But our old schoolwear site, again, went through multiple different e-commerce solutions. I want to say the last one before we moved over to Znode was WordPress, and there was just the arguable logistical headache of plugins, maintenance, trying to use a theme. Was it off-the-shelf theme? Was it internally built theme? And so on and so forth. So we had a major headache with that side of things. We also had issues with catalogues. So trying to actually build up good catalogues from that side of things was really difficult. And the experience on the schoolwear side of things, it kind of sucked. I can say that. I wasn't part of that team. But I did buy from it because I've got kids. So I had been there, I had used the site, I had felt pain points, and even then, in the grand scheme of e-commerce, especially where we are, there's lots of businesses that, if you're lucky, they even have a website. So it worked, it was good. But if you actually broke it down, user experience was trickier, like most old systems, right? That we think it's great, doesn't work great on mobile, doesn't respond very well, conversion ratio isn't always great. But we did have a captive audience. So when we started to think about where we were going to go next, we had to think about our challenges. Big part of that was pricing, not just customer pricing, but also the actual setup for us to take on board. We've got this system that's been in place for so long, and we had to make, there we go. We had to make a decision to spend, right? We had to invest in it. If we're thinking about putting our customers first, we have to make sure that we're actually investing in a solution that's going to work for them, that we're happy with. Internally as well, we talk about our internal customers, and really that's our team, our colleagues. The system has to work for them as well. And our old schoolwear solution, again, internally from an administration perspective, was an absolute nightmare for the guys. So in my head, I'm kind of envisioning, we have a huge kind of warehouse facility. You might see in the video playing in the background. We have a branding department downstairs, and they're always at max capacity. It's not just schoolwear that they do. We do a lot of commercial clothing branding. So from distilleries that will come and order 500 things at one time that they need it for 3 days later. So we have a huge kind of branding team, and they were having to chase paper trails constantly, or orders that had gone missing. Anyone here a parent? Yeah, a few of you guys? Anyone turned up to pick something up for their kids and it's not been ready? And that could be for a birthday, it could be, yeah, a few of you could kind of nod from that side of things. Imagine dealing with 500, 600, 1,000 plus parents every week turning up to say, where is my school order? Where are my kids' clothes? School starts next week. For us to then say, oh, let me go through the back and try and find it. And part of that was that old system that it just didn't really talk properly to any of our solutions or our systems. So it led us to looking for something new. I'm saying Stephen went through a huge journey, explored lots and lots of different opportunities. And I say, we're here with Znode, and it's been one of those moves that, as far as I'm concerned, has been an absolute no-brainer. So as I mentioned, part of the big task for us was the ERP integration. So say we use Infor.CSD, we are probably one of their few customers in the UK, which again causes a little bit of an issue. So again, the Znode team, support team, Mark, I don't even know where he is, but Mark's team, oh, there we are, waving in the corner. You probably hated the Infor part as much as we did. It was fun. Okay, fun, yeah, okay. But really what we were looking for is trying to streamline that process. And yeah, there's always hiccups, right? Anyone that works in e-commerce, anyone that works with any sort of software or tech, there's hiccups. And internally, we still get people that, try not to say a naughty word, will panic. And it's like you've set the house on fire purely because something's not going right. I would just say that's just normal. And in the grand scheme of our kind of shift from legacy system, or moving from legacy system to Znode, has actually alleviated a lot of those headaches. So we had to look through lots of different things. So looking back at our strategy, what went wrong? And really that's where we started. How could we serve the customer better, and how could we give them a much better experience? And one of the big gaps that we had, again, revolved around that kind of mobile responsive element. And again, storefront, when I prepared for my job interview, it was the easiest job interview I prepared for, because I literally looked at the mobile version, found about 1,000 flaws, and then they didn't ask me a single question about e-commerce. So I didn't have to use any of it, but I prepared. So we had to think about what it was that we wanted. Where did we want to go? And we needed a solution that we could scale. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we've all these divisions. And both myself and Stephen kind of sit at the top of marketing. Imagine you've got 17 different micro businesses almost within a business. So I have that kind of day-to-day headache normally with the marketing team, where you'll find that someone wants you to promote trailers, someone wants you to promote fencing, somebody wants you to promote schoolwear, etc., etc. And you can't really do it all in one go. And this is where we were also drawn into Znode, because it means that we can start to make some really niche or small focused sites. So when we're starting to look at our growth map for however many years, say the next year, 2 years, 3 years, we're currently planning our next 2 or 3 sites as well, which I'll talk about slightly later. But when we had to look at that, we needed that efficiency. We needed to be able to be agile. We needed to quickly pivot into something. And that's where the Znode model has really, really leaned to help us with that. So as I say, we can deliver lots of different experiences. If you go on the sites, I'll bring them up, as I say, later on, the schoolwear one, and what we classify as, I'm using the term industrial, the domain on it's my MacGregor's. You'll see that they are kind of similar. We have quite a strong brand palette that we use across most things. But actually, the beauty of that means that we can knock out a site quite quick if we need to. We don't have to go and rebrand everything under the sun and change all the style sheets to make sure that that blue now is pink or whatever it is. And that whole flow has been phenomenal. And then we've got our product catalogues. So I mentioned that we have the headache of starting from 0 products and then kind of trying to build back up. We don't want to get to the, or at least I don't want to get to the kind of 70,000 plus products listed online. Instead, I'd much rather review it. And if someone's coming on and taking a product on, what can we lose? What don't we sell? Let's use some of that data that we can kind of gather out of the platform. Let's take away the other 16 pairs of waterproof boots that we've decided to put on 2 weeks ago. So with that, it means that we have those catalog elements. So again, if we want to open up just a lawn and garden care site, we've already got the products there. We don't have to go through this horrible monster of repurposing, re-updating, re-uploading, and say it was one of the big parts. That plus the workflows. And say feeding data between the 2 systems, or arguably a system plus multiple sites. Ooh, was not expecting that audio to play. Feeding it between multiple sites and into our ERP with it being seamless is great. In theory now, that we could look up someone and we could see, are they an account holder, what they've purchased from us, but we also then know, right, they've also come in and bought some B2C stuff because they've come in and bought some schoolwear. So actually, that customer isn't just a B2B customer, even though we'll classify it as a B2B account. And that might change some of the conversations. It might help some of our sales teams do more. And we also found with our old system, some of our sales teams didn't really want to push people to e-commerce, which to me in this kind of day and age is madness, that we're not saying, hey, you've come on board, you've just opened an account, here's your login details. Or do you know you can buy online with us? And some of them always would, but other ones, they just wouldn't lean to it because it didn't work very well, it wasn't very efficient. And this is one of the big elements that we've also been looking at. So we want to reduce manual processes. We needed that really strong ERP integration, but we also needed to bring new products to market. I mentioned already, we churn products quite quickly based around these divisions, especially clothing. I don't know if anyone here works in clothing at all, but from that side of things, the amount of new products that are brought in, or specialist products as well. We do a lot of like marine work. So you have to bring in things that obviously are waterproof to certain temperatures, certain depths. We've got some quite, again, niche elements that we need, but we need to be able to bring that to life really, really quickly. So here's a quick kind of snapshot. I'm loving that no one laughed when they saw these ones. Okay, so over at the left-hand side, we've got our two older solutions. This one, which is kind of indented, is, or to the right at the left-hand side, is the industrial site that we've just replaced. So top left, Score, our new Score presence, and this is actually an older version of what, again, we classify as industrial or MacGregor's. So we've very, very quickly been able to create a much stronger brand impression, but we've also been able to create a much better user journey. The storefront one, which we have currently sitting here, it's cumbersome. If I do a search for a specific item, if I don't know the product code, just the nature of their search alone, I'm not really going to be able to find the product very quickly. So some of our customers, I can see this in the data, they literally know their product codes. So they just type in the product codes, find it, they're not browsing. So as a result, we might not actually be making as much money as we could from them because they're not actually looking at any other items. Yeah, it's great that they know what they want from us, but could I show you a couple of other things too? So as we move over, we've managed to very, very much get a much slicker, more modern impression that again works phenomenal from a mobile perspective. So in the early days, when we moved over, I wasn't on board for all of Score. Score was almost like our test ground. It was where we were thinking about trying to get quick wins. Let's bring in the new platform. Let's look to see what we can do. Now, in the UK or in Scotland, school starts kind of end of July, August from a spike, or at least from a going back to school phase. So we have a window where really we sell the most, right? And it's normally the panic of school starts in 4 weeks. Hopefully they give you 4 weeks. School starts in 4 weeks or 8 weeks. I need to just order a uniform. Up until we've got a cut-off point where we realistically, just due to numbers, we can't guarantee that they will get their items by a certain point if they pass a certain point. And that's totally fine. So what we decided to do is build and then prepare, and we actually waited before we launched Schoolwear until after that big spike. And again, that's more going back to customer experience. Yeah, we could have launched with our new, beautiful, shiny, all functioning, all singing, all dancing new website, and we could have. We really could have. The site was ready to go. But what if it wasn't? And we launched it during our peak, when everyone, and again, parents here, I make it sound like I'm an angry parent, I promise I'm not, but they're difficult, right? An upset parent is difficult at the best of times. And imagine just magnifying that, and again, going back to that old, hey, let me go and try and find your order somewhere, and I hope I have it, and where's the paperwork? All right, someone's lifted that, and they've moved it to the other side of the office, and now nobody knows where that order's gone, for talking sake. I make it sound as though we had a terrible setup. We don't, but there is always those kind of ones, excuse me, especially when you're working with paper, they get lost, right? It's not on purpose. It's just somebody's thought, I'll do that work order, and they bring it downstairs and they stick it on the wrong table or the wrong desk, and that person goes for a lunch break and it all just kind of falls apart a little bit. So we waited with Schoolwear, and we waited until that big kind of spike hit, and then we launched it. And what that allowed us to do was actually do some really, really good analysis on the platform. Yesterday, apologies, I can't remember which of the sessions it was, someone mentioned Microsoft Clarity. So I'm a huge, huge fan of using Microsoft Clarity. So we were instantly able to connect that, gather insight, looking for, rage clicks was a term that was used, looking to see where there was those pain points in the journey. And we were able to then fine tune those without impacting or putting people off. Because at the end of the day, we've got competition. If you go to buy online and nothing works, or you get a poor experience, are you going to go back and shop there? Probably not. And again, if we're trying to lean into some of that B2C audience, if that's their one touch point with us and it's to buy Schoolwear, are they then going to want to come to us to buy other goods? Do they then want to bring us in from a trade account side of things? Because their one experience has been that personal, that B2C, would they want to then move to us from a B2B if they'd had a bad experience? So not at all. So we were clever with what we did. But what was nice is that we could then look at things like what the impact of bringing in Znode. And again, our old WordPress version, it was fairly good on a mobile perspective. But what we can see in our data is that mobile conversions went up by about 50%. So that was huge. If you're thinking about, I don't know what it's like here in the evenings, but I'm sitting at home, I've taken my dog out, finally got my kids to bed, and I finally get that glimmer where I can have like me time, but really what that means is I have to then plan what's happening next. School clubs. I coach, I was going to say kids football, but kids soccer. So I've got lots of things that I've kind of got to juggle, like most people in life, right? And if you get a bad experience, you grab on a shop, you just don't go there. So it was a very, very good thing for us, especially as say when we start to see retention and conversion. So we can look at that journey. We can now see that we've managed to maintain and keep people that potentially last year bought something for, in our schooling system, you would go like primary to secondary being like a high school environment. We can track that a parent has in theory bought their primary school kids and then they've gone on to buy their high school clothes as that kid's kind of moved up to the different school. So we can actually track some of this information better as well. We also have such better, accurate pricing. It sounds mad to kind of say it, but it just works. Everything was just really slick. Things as simple as size guides. Again, for clothing for us in our old system, we couldn't just go into a dam and push a size guide across all these different products. We had to manually go into it. And I mentioned with schoolwear, there's not that many products, but it's still laborsome. Whereas for this, it was just so much slicker. So administration time drastically reduced. How am I doing for time, more importantly? I've got about 10? Yeah, 10, okay, just shout me when you want me to shut up. Okay, so with that, we are seeing major growth. And that's the beauty, and that's where it then starts to get, probably both myself and Stephen, we're the ones that get excited in the office, where it's like, what can we do next? We had a brilliant kind of meeting with the Znode guys yesterday where it was like, hey, that site that we put live like 4 weeks ago, we've got like 3 ideas for 3 other stores. When can we look at that? And one of them, we kind of want now. So we're really, really excited about that side of things. But also with that, we've got a much stronger buy-in internally because our e-commerce experience was just a bit janky. It wasn't great. So now that we've got that internal buy-in, it actually makes some of these e-commerce conversations a lot more exciting because you can pull people in from lots of different parts of the company. Then now, from our perspective, e-commerce is good. Whereas beforehand, they might not have wanted to do it at all. So it gives us that huge flexibility and innovation where we can then start to think, what's next? What's next? Not what's broken or why is it down? Or for us, the nature, we've got a big open plan office. Normally what you notice, if there's an issue with e-commerce, you hear lots more phones ringing. And it's because someone's gone to buy online and they can't. And they're coming to let you know, hey, it doesn't work. And you think, oh God, here we go again. We don't have that problem anymore. Now, what is really good is that we can then analyze it more. So we can use the better data. We can start to find more information. We can get much slicker product searching than we've ever had before. But we can also then try and cross-sell. We can sell bundles, we can sell kits, we can start to really build anything that nowadays you would expect in a modern e-commerce solution, but at a pace that suits us. We're not kind of being pushed, you've got to do this next, you've got to do that, or why are you not doing this? We can actually just sit down and look strategically at each of these sites. Compared to using an off-the-shelf solution, we had an internal meeting, both myself and Stephen were kind of pulled into one recently of, hey, somebody that I know put a Shopify site live in 4 days. Why can we not put a site live in 4 days? And it was like, well, it's a very, very different beast that we're dealing with. So trying to have some of these other conversations, we can look at growth. And I say e-commerce, the way I kind of view it, is we call it like a showroom or a branch, like for our stores, like our physical stores. I treat e-commerce as that. So each site should almost be like another physical branch, because realistically, from a monetary perspective, that's where we should be aiming. We should be thinking, we want to be bigger than, I'm not even going to say the names because it wouldn't mean anything to you guys, but I'm going to be bigger than the Inverurie branch, for talking sake, because we can draw people in from so much more, and it really just fits that kind of business model that we've got. So say, as we're kind of looking ahead, we've done a little bit of, I suppose, backtracking, and it's more thinking about, with each of the projects, what we've learned. So, big one being, we now have that kind of buy-in across the board, so we can start to have conversations with people that we wouldn't normally get to. It isn't just a one-off project, which I know a lot of businesses, again, in Scotland, it's, hey, I've got my site, or I've got my store, I can kind of check out of it. For us, it's much, much bigger. We're thinking about the different scale that we can look at and what different capabilities we can push out to different divisions to help them. So we started small with that kind of schoolwear element, and that was where we could then really focus on the customer experience. We analyzed it, we explored it, we looked at different functionalities. And then what we did is we lifted all the parts that we thought were great and really exciting, and also brought that as on the journey to industrial. So some of the stuff that we've implemented into our industrial site, we kind of trialed in schoolwear, and then we cranked it up a notch, and we've added even more kind of functionality. And one of the things that I really like, and it's such a minor detail, we have, as I say, obviously people all around the kind of country that are buying stuff from us. And if you're a trade account with us, normally you're associated to an area or a region. So one of the simple little amendments that we made is that when we show you the stock availability, and it shows you across all the different stores, it will always put your store first. So that you're not having to kind of scan through a big list and look for it. It doesn't ask you for your postcode or your zip codes or anything like that at all. It just knows, but because of how we've got our account set up, hey, you're close to Skye, so we're going to show you what's in Portree. Or you're associated to Inverness, we're going to put Inverness first. And then just puts the rest in alphabetical order. And it's such a minor thing. But again, what you notice when you start to look at it is the speed of transition for people to purchase. I always kind of lean on Amazon because they kind of lead the way with most e-com, right? If you look at how quickly we can now get people to transition, we're very much that kind of sub 3 clicks to kind of do anything that you want now, which to me means that we're providing a good experience, and we can start to take that even further. Now, the big thing that I also want to kind of touch on, I appreciate a lot of you guys are already way with your kind of e-commerce journey. The biggest thing that I kind of lean on, and I talk to my team about this a lot, is communication. Whenever we're talking about anything e-commerce wise, be it a development, be it something that we want to troubleshoot, be it something that we're thinking about implementing, or even having conversations with like the wider audience like you guys, or support teams, or dev teams, or implementation teams, we need to talk. And obviously, I'm hoping you guys have kept along with me on this journey this morning. I talk a lot, I talk quite fast. I sometimes don't stop talking, but communication is probably the biggest part that we've actually had a lot of success in. We've homed a really good team back with us, and we've got a really good team this side of the pond, which has been brilliant. It means that we can have continual conversation for development. And it's never one of these like finger pointing or why is this doing that? It's more discussion, which to me is really, really powerful, because then we can glean things. The other part is thinking about the transformation. Just because we've come so far, we've made, or at least we feel we've come so far, we've got rid of our old schoolwear site. We've now got a new schoolwear site where traffic is kind of booming. We've seen growth by about 12 or 13% from a kind of month to month, especially during peak. At the end of that season, there's a huge spike. But we've seen that growth. We've seen the growth for the kind of conversions, specifically on the mobile side of things. But when we're thinking about it, it's what's next on our journey. We shouldn't just stop. We shouldn't just put schoolwear live and schoolwear's done. And we were having a conversation yesterday of, in roughly about 5 or 6 weeks, we're probably going to revisit schoolwear and see what we can do better again. So don't sit on what you've currently got just because it's there and it's working and you're turning money. That's when you end up with that 10, 12-year-old e-commerce platform that's sitting, and you start to think, where have some of the customers gone? Okay, I appreciate I'm getting very short on time. I will open the floor for questions if anyone's got any.